The last thing I heard before they disappeared through the gate was my brother's laugh. Not a nervous laugh. Not an apologetic one. A victorious one, high and sharp, like he'd just won something he'd been playing for all along. I was 14 years old, standing in Dubai International Airport with a borrowed phone dying in my hand, watching my mother's back get smaller and smaller until the crowd swallowed her whole. She didn't turn around. Not once. If this story already has your heart racing, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and drop a comment below. Your support means the world to us, and it helps stories like mine reach people who need to hear them. Now, let me take you back to where it all started falling apart. 3 weeks earlier, my mother announced we were going to America. Not as immigrants. Not permanently. Just a vacation, her word. Not mine. A family trip to visit her younger sister, Aunt Lydia, who'd married some tech guy in California and lived in one of those sprawling ranch-style houses you see in movies. My mother had been obsessed with Lydia's life for years. Every phone call was a performance, and every holiday card a reminder that Lydia had made it in ways my mother never did. I should have known something was wrong the moment she started packing. My brother Ethan, 16, golden-haired, sharp-jawed, her absolute favorite since the day he was born, got 3 new suitcases. Name brand. The kind with the spinner wheels that glide like they're floating. I got a duffel bag. One. The zipper was broken on one side, and it smelled faintly of mildew. When I asked why, my mother didn't even look up from folding Ethan's clothes. "You don't need much, Natalie," she said flatly. "It's just 2 weeks." Ethan smirked from the doorway. That smirk, I can still see it. The one that said, "You'll always be less." Our father had been gone for 6 years by then. Heart attack at 42. Sudden, brutal. The kind of loss that either pulls a family together or tears it into pieces. Ours did the latter. My mother never recovered. She didn't grieve, she rewired. She took every ounce of love she'd ever had for him and funneled it straight into Ethan. Her firstborn. Her son. Her favorite. I became the shadow. But I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself that if I just kept my head down, worked hard in school, stayed out of the way, maybe one day she'd see me too. Maybe one day I'd be enough. I was so stupid. The flight from Newark to Dubai was long, 14 hours of recycled air and cramped seats. Ethan got the window. I got the middle. My mother sat beside him, laughing at his jokes, stroking his hair when he pretended to sleep. I read a book I'd bought with my own money, a mystery novel about a girl who solved her father's murder. I remember thinking, at least someone's fighting for something. When we landed in Dubai for our layover, the airport felt like another planet. Gold, glass, marble floors so shiny you could see your reflection, palm trees growing indoors, stores selling watches that cost more than our car. It was overwhelming in the best and worst ways. My mother was giddy, practically vibrating with excitement. Ethan strutted around like he owned the place. I just wanted to find our gate and sit down. That's when my mother said it. "Natalie, I need you to watch the bags. Ethan and I are going to grab some food." I blinked. "What about me?" She waved a hand dismissively. "We'll bring you something." And just like that, they left. I sat there for an hour. Maybe more. The bags piled around me like a fortress. My stomach growled. My legs cramped. I watched families pass by laughing together, whole, and felt something cold settle in my chest. When my mother and Ethan finally came back, they were holding Starbucks cups and pastry bags. They didn't bring me anything. "You didn't miss much," Ethan said, grinning. "The croissants here are overpriced anyway." My mother said nothing. I swallowed the hurt. I always did. An hour before our connecting flight to Los Angeles, my mother went to the bathroom. Ethan stayed behind, scrolling on his phone. I was half asleep, head resting against my duffel bag, when I felt him move closer. "Natalie." I opened my eyes. He was crouched beside me, his expression unreadable. "What?" He hesitated. For a second, just a second, I thought maybe he was going to apologize. Maybe he was going to acknowledge the cold, quiet cruelty I'd been drowning in. But then his mouth twisted into something ugly. "You know Mom likes me more, right?" I stared at him. "It's not because you're not smart or whatever," he continued, almost thoughtfully. "It's just, you remind her of Dad, and she can't stand that." The words hit like a fist to the ribs. Ethan, I'm just saying. He interrupted, standing up. Don't take it personally. It's not your fault you look like him. He walked away before I could respond. I sat there, frozen, trying to process what he'd just said, trying to figure out if it was true, trying to breathe through the sudden, crushing weight in my chest. That's when I noticed my backpack was open. I always kept my documents in the front pocket. Passport, boarding pass, travel insurance card, everything I needed in one place. I'd checked it twice before we left Newark. I'd checked it again in Dubai. Now the pocket was empty. Panic hit me like ice water. I tore through the bag once, twice, 3 times. I dumped everything onto the floor. Gum wrappers, a pen, a crumpled tissue. No passport. No boarding pass. Mom? I called out, my voice shaking. She was 20 feet away, chatting with Ethan near a magazine stand. She didn't hear me, or she pretended not to. I ran over, breathless. Mom, my documents, they're gone. My passport, my boarding pass, I can't find them. She looked at me like I'd just told her the sky was falling. What do you mean gone? I don't know. They were in my bag and now they're not, Ethan interrupted. His voice smooth as silk. Did you check your duffel? Yes, I checked everywhere. My mother's face hardened. Natalie, this is not the time for dramatics. My voice cracked. I'm not being dramatic, Mom. They're gone. She sighed, long and loud, like I was the most exhausting thing in the world. Then she turned to Ethan. Did you see her take them out? He didn't hesitate. Yeah, earlier, when we were getting coffee. She had her passport out, looking at it. I felt the ground tilt beneath me. That's not true, I whispered. Ethan shrugged. I'm just saying what I saw, Mom. He's lying enough. Her voice cut through the terminal like a whip. People turned to look. I am so tired of this, Natalie. So tired of your carelessness. Your need for attention. I didn't lose them. I was crying now. Hot tears streaming down my face. I swear I didn't. Then where are they? I had no answer. How could I? How could I prove something that wasn't my fault? My mother checked her watch. We're boarding in 15 minutes. I'll go to the service desk and see what we can do. She walked away, heels clicking against marble. Ethan leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear. Oops, he whispered, and that's when I knew. The service desk was chaos. My mother argued with 3 different attendants in increasingly frantic tones. Without my documents, I couldn't board. They needed to see my passport. They needed proof of identity. My mother showed them my birth certificate photo on her phone, but it wasn't enough. We can book her on a later flight, one attendant suggested. Once she retrieves her passport or gets emergency documentation from the consulate, that could take days. My mother snapped. I understand, ma'am, but this is unacceptable. Ethan stood beside her, silent, watching me with those cold, calculating eyes. The final boarding call echoed through the terminal. My mother looked at me, really looked at me, and for a second, I hoped that maybe she'd stay. Maybe she'd put her arm around me and say, we'll figure this out together. Instead, she said, I'll call you when we land. I didn't understand. What? Ethan and I have to board, Natalie. Lydia's expecting us. I'll call the consulate from California and arrange for someone to. You're leaving me here? Her jaw tightened. You lost your documents. This is your responsibility. Mom, please, we'll figure it out. She was already turning away. Stay near the gate. Someone will help you, Mom. But she was gone. She and Ethan walked toward the gate, boarding passes in hand. And I stood there 14 years old, alone in a foreign country, watching my family disappear. Ethan glanced back once. He smiled. I don't know how long I stood there. Minutes, hours. Time felt broken. Eventually, a security officer approached me. Middle-aged, kind eyes, a thick accent. Miss, are you okay? I couldn't speak. I just shook my head. He led me to a small office, sterile, fluorescent lit, cold. They asked me questions. Where was I from? Where were my parents? Did I have anyone I could call? I gave them my mother's number. They tried it 6 times. No answer. Is there anyone else? The officer asked gently. I thought of Aunt Lydia, but I didn't have her number. I thought of my school, my teachers, my friends, but none of them could help me here. I was alone. That's when the door opened. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with silver hair and a weathered face that looked like it had seen every corner of the world. He wore a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, and he moved like someone who didn't need permission to be anywhere. The officer stood immediately. "Mr. Harrington," the man nodded, his eyes landing on me. "This the girl?" "Yes, sir." He studied me for a long moment, and I felt something shift in the air. Not pity, not sympathy, something sharper. "What's your name?" he asked. "Natalie." My voice was barely a whisper. "Natalie," he repeated, like he was testing it. "I'm James Harrington. I own a security consulting firm here in Dubai. The airport called me because situations like this require discretion." I didn't understand. He pulled up a chair and sat across from me, elbows on his knees. "Your family left you here." It wasn't a question. I nodded, tears spilling over again. "And your documents?" "My brother took them," I whispered. "I know he did. He hates me. He wanted this to happen." James's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Why would he do that?" "Because my mom loves him more. Because I'm nothing to them." Silence. Then James leaned back, pulling out his phone. "What's your mother's number?" I gave it to him. He dialed. It rang, and rang. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. On the third attempt, someone picked up. "Hello?" My mother's voice, tinny and distant. James didn't introduce himself. "This is James Harrington with Dubai Airport Security. I'm sitting with your daughter, Natalie." A pause. Then, "Oh, is she okay?" "She's terrified. You left her here." "I didn't leave her," my mother said defensively. "She lost her documents. There was nothing I could do. You could have stayed." Another pause. Longer this time. "I have a family obligation in California. I'll arrange for her to." "Ma'am," James interrupted, his voice ice cold. "Do you have any idea what happens to unaccompanied minors in foreign airports? Do you know how many trafficking networks operate in transit hubs like this?" I heard my mother's breath hitch. "I'll make sure she's safe," she stammered. "I'll call the consulate." "You'll do more than that." James's tone was a blade. "You'll get on the next flight back here and pick up your daughter. Or I'll contact Child Protective Services in both countries and make sure this incident is documented." Silence. "Are we clear?" James asked. "Yes," my mother whispered. He hung up. James stayed with me for the next 6 hours. He bought me food, real food, not airport junk. He let me use his phone to call a friend back home, just to hear a familiar voice. He didn't ask intrusive questions. He just stayed. At some point, I asked him, "Why are you helping me?" He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I had a daughter once, about your age." Had. The word hung in the air like a ghost. "She died," he continued softly. "Car accident. 10 years ago. And every time I see a kid alone, scared, abandoned, I think of her. I think of what I'd want someone to do if she were still here." Tears blurred my vision. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Don't be." He looked at me. Really looked at me. "You didn't deserve this, Natalie. None of it. And I need you to remember that. Whatever happens next, remember that you are not the problem. They are." My mother arrived 14 hours later. She walked into that office looking exhausted, embarrassed, furious. Ethan trailed behind her, silent for once. James stood the moment she entered. "Miss Brennan." My mother barely glanced at him. She looked at me instead, her face tight. "Get your things. We're going to a hotel." I didn't move. "Natalie, now." James stepped between us. "Before you go, I need something from you." My mother frowned. "Excuse me." He pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. "Surveillance footage," he said calmly. "From this terminal. Time stamped 1 hour before your flight." The video played. And there it was. Ethan, clear as day, reaching into my backpack, pulling out my passport, slipping it into his jacket pocket. The color drained from my mother's face. "I don't," she started. "You don't what?" James's voice was granite. "You don't believe it? You don't care? Or you just don't want to admit that you let your son sabotage your daughter and then abandon her in a foreign country?" Ethan's face went pale. My mother stared at the screen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Where is the passport now? James asked, slowly, shakily. Ethan reached into his jacket and pulled it out. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. My mother stood frozen, staring at the passport in Ethan's hand like it was a live grenade. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No words came out. For the first time in my life, I watched my mother sharp-tongued, always in control, never wrong, completely lost. James didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The video had said it all. I looked at Ethan. His face was red now, blotchy with shame or anger or both. His hands trembled as he held my passport. And for a second, just a second, I thought he might apologize. I thought he might crumble and say he was sorry, that he didn't mean it, that he didn't know it would go this far. But he didn't. Instead, he shoved the passport toward me like it burned his fingers. I was just messing around, he muttered. I was going to give it back. When? I asked quietly. He didn't answer. When, Ethan? My voice cracked. When we landed in LA. When I'd already missed the flight. When I'd spend the night alone in an airport in a country I don't know. I didn't think you never do. I was shouting now, something breaking open inside me. You never think about me. You never have. And Mom she just lets you, that's enough. My mother said sharply. I whirled on her. No, it's not enough. It's never been enough. You left me here, Mom. You left me. Her face hardened. I came back, didn't I? Because he made you. I pointed at James. Not because you wanted to. Not because you love me. Because someone finally forced you to act like a mother. She flinched. Actual, visible pain crossed her face. Good, I thought. Let her feel it. But then something else rose up in my chest, something I'd been holding back for hours. For years. Words I'd swallowed 1,000 times. Words that had been building like pressure behind a dam. Do you know what it's like? My voice broke. Do you have any idea what it's like to watch your own mother choose someone else every single day? To pack his suitcases with care and throw me a broken duffel bag? To watch you laugh at his jokes while I sit there invisible? To beg you not to leave me and watch you walk away anyway? Tears were streaming down my face now, hot and relentless. I'm your daughter too, Mom. I'm your daughter too. But you've made me feel like a burden my entire life. Like I'm something you have to tolerate instead of someone you chose to love. My mother's lips trembled. Natalie, I know. I held up my hand. You don't get to explain this away. You don't get to make excuses. You abandoned your 14-year-old daughter in a foreign country because it was easier than dealing with the truth. Because admitting Ethan did something wrong would mean admitting you've been wrong about him for years. She was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. But I couldn't stop. The dam had broken. I needed you, I whispered. I needed my mom, and you weren't there. You've never been there. James stepped forward gently. Natalie, I'm done. I said, my voice hollow. I'm just done. James cleared his throat. I think it's time you all leave, he said evenly. But before you do, I need to make one thing very clear. He looked directly at my mother. I've documented everything. The footage, the phone call, Natalie's statement. If anything, and I mean anything, happens to this girl as a result of this incident, I will personally ensure that child services in both the US and WA are made aware. Do you understand? My mother's jaw tightened, but she nodded, unable to speak. James turned to me, his voice softening. Natalie, do you feel safe going with them? I wanted to say no. I wanted to beg him to let me stay, to keep me away from them, to protect me the way no one ever had. I wanted to ask if I could live with him, if he could adopt me, if he could be the parent I'd never had, but I was 14. I had nowhere else to go. Yes, I whispered, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. He didn't look convinced. He crouched down to my level, his eyes searching mine. I mean it, Natalie. Day or night. You call me. If things get bad, if you don't feel safe, if you just need to talk, you call. Promise me. I promise. I said, and this time I meant it. He pulled me into a hug, then quick, fierce, fatherly. I felt something crack inside me. This stranger cared more about me in one day than my own family had in 14 years. He handed me a business card. My number. Don't lose it. I clutched it like a lifeline. We didn't go to California. My mother booked us on the next flight back to Newark. No explanation, no apology, no acknowledgement of what had just happened. Just a tight-lipped, humiliated silence that started in that airport office and lasted the entire 14 hours home. Ethan sat 3 rows away. I was glad. If I'd had to sit next to him, I don't know what I would have done. Maybe screamed, maybe cried, maybe nothing at all. My body felt numb, like I was watching everything happen from somewhere outside myself. My mother sat beside me, staring out the window. Her hands were folded in her lap, knuckles white. I could see her reflection in the glass, jaw tight, eyes red-rimmed, the picture of a woman whose carefully constructed world had just collapsed. Good. I thought again. Let it hurt. But beneath the anger, there was something else. A deep, aching sadness that felt like it might swallow me whole. Because even after everything, part of me still wanted her to turn to me. Part of me still wanted her to say she was sorry, that she loved me, that she'd do better. Part of me was still that little girl desperate for her mother's love. At one point, somewhere over the Atlantic, she spoke. I didn't know. She said quietly, her voice barely audible over the engine noise. I didn't respond. I kept my eyes on the seat in front of me, counting the stitches in the fabric. I didn't know he would do something like that. Yes, you did, I said, my voice flat and cold. She turned to look at me, startled. Maybe not this exact thing, I continued, still not looking at her. But she knew he was cruel to me. You knew he treated me like I didn't matter. You saw it every single day. And you let it happen. You encouraged it. So don't sit here and tell me you didn't know. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. He's my son, and I'm your daughter. I finally looked at her, and I saw her flinch at whatever she saw in my eyes. Does that mean nothing to you? Does it mean so little that you can just throw me away when it's convenient? I didn't throw you away, you left me in Dubai. My voice rose, and a few passengers glanced our way. I didn't care. You walked onto that plane knowing I was alone, knowing I was scared, and you did it anyway. What do you call that? Tears spilled down her cheeks. I thought you'd be fine. I thought the airport would help you, that it would all get sorted out. I'm 14 years old. I could have been kidnapped, trafficked, hurt, and you didn't care enough to stay. I did care, she whispered. I do care. No, I said quietly. You care about what people think. You care about Aunt Lydia seeing you as a failure. You care about Ethan's feelings. But me? I'm just a reminder of Dad, right? That's what Ethan said. I remind you of him. And you can't stand it. Her face went pale. He told you that? Right before he stole my passport. She pressed her hand to her mouth, a sob escaping. Natalie, that's not, don't lie to me. Not anymore. I turned back to the seat in front of me. Just don't. We didn't speak again for the rest of the flight, but I felt her crying beside me, quiet, broken sobs that she tried to muffle with her hand. And despite everything, despite the anger and betrayal and hurt, part of me wanted to comfort her. That's the cruelest part about loving someone who's hurt you. The love doesn't just disappear. It sits there in your chest, tangled up with all the pain, making everything harder. When we got home, my mother sent Ethan to his room. He went without protest, which was almost scarier than if he'd fought back. I stood in the hallway, duffel bag still in hand, waiting for something. An explanation, a consequence, anything. My mother sat down at the kitchen table, head in her hands. The house felt different somehow, smaller, darker, like the walls themselves knew what had happened. I don't know what to do, she said, more to herself than to me. Her voice was raw, broken in a way I'd never heard before. You could start by believing me, I said. You could start by choosing me, just once. She looked up, eyes red-rimmed and swollen. I do believe you, now. I know. You don't. You believe the video. You believe James. You didn't believe me when I was standing there crying, begging you not to leave. I felt fresh tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You didn't believe your own daughter. I'm sorry, she whispered. Sorry doesn't bring back those hours. Mom, sorry doesn't erase the fact that I stood in that airport thinking you hated me, that you'd rather lose me than admit Ethan was wrong. Her face crumpled completely. I don't hate you, Natalie. I could never. Then why does it feel like you do? The words burst out of me like a confession. Why does it feel like every single day of my life I've had to fight just to be seen by you? Why do I have to be perfect just to get a fraction of the love you give him without asking? She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Because you're so much like him. She choked out. You're so much like your father. And it hurts. Every time I look at you, I see him. And it hurts. The truth hung in the air between us, ugly and raw and devastating. So you punished me for it, I said softly. You punished me for looking like someone you loved. I didn't mean to. She cried. I swear I didn't mean to. I just after he died. I didn't know how to love me. I finished. How to be my mother. She buried her face in her hands, her sobs echoing through the empty kitchen. And I stood there, watching her fall apart, feeling absolutely nothing. The well had run dry. I had no more tears left for her. No more sympathy. No more hope. I'm going to bed, I said quietly. Natalie, please, I can't do this right now, Mom. I can't. I walked to my room, closed the door, and sat on my bed in the darkness. My hands were shaking. My chest felt tight, like something was squeezing all the air out of my lungs. I pulled out James's card and stared at it for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and called him. He answered on the second ring. Natalie? I don't know what to do, I whispered. I don't know how to live here anymore. Tell me what happened. And I did. I told him everything. The flight home. The conversation with my mother. The confession that I looked like my dead father and she couldn't stand it. I told him how empty I felt. How alone. How scared that this was my life now, 3 more years of being invisible in my own home. James listened without interrupting. When I finally ran out of words, there was a long silence. Natalie, he said gently, what happened to you isn't your fault. None of it. Not your father's death. Not your mother's grief. Not Ethan's cruelty. You don't deserve this. Then why does it keep happening? My voice broke. Why am I not enough? You are enough. You've always been enough. They're just too broken to see it. He paused. Listen to me. You have 3 more years until you're 18. 3 years. And I know that sounds like forever right now. But you're going to get through it. You're going to survive this. And when you do, you're going to build a life so beautiful that this pain will feel like a distant memory. How do you know? Because I've seen your strength. I saw it in that airport. You didn't fall apart, Natalie. You stood there and fought. You told the truth even when it hurt. That takes courage. And that courage is going to carry you through. I was crying again. But this time they were different tears. Not tears of despair, but something else. Something that felt almost like hope. Thank you, I whispered, for everything, for saving me. You saved yourself, he said. I just gave you a push. Now promise me something. What? Promise me you'll keep fighting. That you won't let them make you small. That you'll remember who you are, even when they forget. I promise. Good. Now get some sleep. And Natalie, call me anytime. I mean that. After we hung up, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. James was right. I had 3 years. 3 years to get strong enough to leave. 3 years to build something they couldn't touch. I could do this. I would do this. For the next 3 years, I became a ghost in my own home. I stopped trying to make my mother see me. I stopped hoping Ethan would change. I poured every ounce of energy I had into school. I got straight A's. I joined debate team and crushed every competition. I volunteered at a local women's shelter, tutoring kids who reminded me of myself, quiet, hurt, invisible. I learned to find family in other places. My debate coach, Mrs. Chen, became a mentor. She saw something in me that my own mother never had. She pushed me to be better, to argue harder, to take up space. She wrote me a college recommendation letter that made me cry. My best friend, Maya, let me sleep at her house on the weekends when home felt too suffocating. Her parents treated me like a second daughter. They asked about my day, celebrated my victories, noticed when I was sad. They showed me what a family could be. And James called me every month without fail. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. He told me stories about his daughter, about the life he'd built after losing her. He taught me that grief doesn't have to destroy you, that it can reshape you into something stronger. At home, my mother tried. I have to give her that. She asked how school was going. She came to one debate tournament and sat in the back row. She stopped comparing me to Ethan, at least out loud, but it was too little too late. The damage was done. Every time I looked at her, I saw that airport terminal. I saw her walking away, and I couldn't forgive that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Ethan avoided me completely. We existed in the same house like strangers, orbiting each other carefully, never touching. Sometimes I'd catch him looking at me with something that might have been regret. But he never apologized, never tried to make it right. On my 17th birthday, my mother bought me a cake, chocolate, my favorite. She put 17 candles on it and sang to me in a wavering voice while Ethan stood in the doorway, silent. "Make a wish," she said. I closed my eyes and wished for one thing: freedom. Then I blew out the candles, and we ate cake in silence. That night, James sent me a package. Inside was a leather journal and a note. "Write it down. All of it. The hurt, the anger, the hope, the dreams. Someday, you'll want to remember how far you've come. You're going to do extraordinary things, Natalie. I know it." I cried for the first time in months. Not sad tears, grateful ones. Because someone believed in me. Someone saw me. And that was enough to keep going. I applied to colleges on the opposite side of the country: UCLA, UC Berkeley, Stanford, University of Washington. Anywhere that wasn't New Jersey. Anywhere I could start over and become someone new. When my acceptance letter to UCLA came, I sat in my room and stared at it for 20 minutes. Full scholarship, honors program, a future I'd built entirely on my own. I walked downstairs where my mother was making dinner. I placed the letter on the counter. "California," she said softly, picking it up with trembling hands. "Yeah, that's far. I know." She read the letter slowly, her eyes filling with tears. "Full scholarship. That's wonderful, Natalie. I'm proud of you." The words should have meant something. A year ago, they would have meant everything. But now they just felt empty. "Thank you," I said politely. "Will you come home for the holidays?" Her voice was small, afraid. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I haven't decided yet." She nodded slowly, setting the letter down. "I understand." She looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I saw all the years of regret written on her face. "I know I can't fix what I did. I know sorry isn't enough. But I want you to know that." Her voice cracked. "I'm going to miss you so much." Something twisted in my chest. Because despite everything, I believed her. And despite everything, part of me would miss her too. Not the mother she was, but the mother she could have been. "I'll miss you too," I said quietly. "But I need to do this. I need to leave." "I know," she whispered. "You should. You deserve to be happy." It was the most honest conversation we'd had in years. The day I left for college, Ethan knocked on my door. I was packing the last of my things: books, clothes, the journal James had given me. When I heard the knock, I froze. We hadn't spoken directly in months. I wasn't sure I wanted to start now. "Come in," I said anyway. He opened the door slowly, hovering in the doorway like he wasn't sure he was allowed inside. He looked different, older. The cocky confidence was gone, replaced by something that looked like exhaustion. "Hey," he said. "Hey." Silence, awkward and heavy. He shoved his hands in his pockets. "I wanted to talk to you before you left." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "I'm sorry," he said, the words tumbling out fast. "For Dubai, for everything before that, for being a terrible brother. I don't even have a good excuse. I was just angry all the time, and I took it out on you. And that was wrong." I folded a shirt slowly, carefully, giving myself time to think. "Why were you angry?" He looked surprised by the question. "I don't know. Dad dying, I guess. Mom falling apart. feeling like I had to be perfect because she couldn't handle anything else breaking. And you, he trailed off. Me what? You handled it better than I did. You were sad, but you didn't fall apart. You kept going, and I hated that. I hated that you were stronger than me. I looked at him then. Really looked at him. He wasn't the villain I'd built up in my head. He was just a broken kid who'd never learned how to process his pain. I wasn't stronger, I said quietly. I was just surviving. Yeah, well, you were good at it. Better than me. He rubbed the back of his neck. I know you probably hate me. And I get that. I deserve it. But I needed you to know that I'm sorry. And that I'm glad you're getting out of here. You deserve better than this place. Better than us. My throat tightened. I don't hate you, Ethan. He looked up, surprised. I did, for a while. But mostly I just feel sad. Sad that we could have been close. Sad that we wasted all these years hurting each other. Me too, he said, his voice rough. For what it's worth, I think you're going to do amazing things out there. You're smart and strong, and you're going to show everyone what you're made of. Thanks, I said, and I meant it. We stood there for another moment, and then he stepped forward and hugged me. It was brief, awkward, but genuine. Take care of yourself, he said. You too. He left, and I went back to packing with tears streaming down my face. My mother drove me to the airport. The same airport we'd left from 3 years ago. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She helped me with my bags at the curb, and for a moment, we just stood there. The late August sun beat down on us, and I could hear the sounds of the city cars honking, people shouting, life moving forward whether we were ready or not. Natalie, she started, her voice trembling. Don't, I said quietly. Please, I can't do this right now. Her eyes filled with tears. I just need you to know that I'm sorry. For all of it. For not protecting you. For choosing wrong over and over again. For not being the mother you deserved. I know I can't fix it. I know sorry doesn't change what happened. But I am. I'm so sorry. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw what she'd become. A woman hollowed out by grief. Poisoned by her own inability to heal. Too proud to ask for help until it was too late. She'd loved my father so much that losing him had broken something fundamental inside her. And instead of fixing it, she'd let it bleed all over everyone around her. I understood her pain. I even empathized with it. But I couldn't forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I know you are, I said, my own tears starting. But sorry doesn't change what happened. It doesn't change how you made me feel. It doesn't erase the fact that I spent 3 years feeling invisible in my own home. It doesn't bring back the little girl who just wanted her mom to love her. She was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. I did love you. I do love you. I didn't know how to show it. I was so lost in my own pain that I couldn't see yours. I know, I said softly, and that's the tragedy of it. We were both drowning, and neither of us knew how to save each other. She reached for me, and I let her pull me into a hug. We stood there on the sidewalk, both of us crying, both of us broken in our own ways. I felt her heart beating against my chest, fast and frantic, like she was trying to memorize the feeling of holding me. I love you, Natalie, she whispered. I love you so much, and I'm so proud of who you've become. You did that on your own. You became this strong, beautiful, brilliant person despite me, not because of me. And I'll spend the rest of my life wishing I'd been better. I love you too, Mom, I said. And I meant it. Because love isn't simple. It isn't clean. You can love someone and still need to leave them. You can love someone and still know they're toxic for you. You can love someone and still choose yourself. We pulled apart, both of us wiping our eyes. Will you call me? She asked. Sometimes. Sometimes I agreed. When I'm ready, she nodded, accepting that it was all I could give. Good luck out there. I hope you find everything you're looking for. Thanks, Mom. I grabbed my bags and walked into the terminal. At the security checkpoint, I turned back one last time. She was still standing there, watching me, one hand raised in a small wave. I waved back. Then I walked through security and didn't look back again. College was everything home. Wasn't freedom, space. air, the chance to rebuild myself from the ground up. I arrived at UCLA and felt like I could finally breathe. No one here knew my history. No one knew about Dubai or my mother's favoritism or the years I'd spent feeling invisible. I could be anyone I wanted. So I became the person I'd always been underneath all the pain. Strong, confident, unafraid to take up space. I thrived. I made friends who actually saw me, Maya from down the hall who became my best friend, Carlos from my psychology class who challenged me intellectually, Rebecca from the debate team who pushed me to be fearless. I dated people who treated me with kindness and respect. I discovered that relationships didn't have to hurt, that love could be gentle. I majored in psychology because I wanted to understand why families break the way mine did. I wanted to help people who'd been through what I'd been through. I wanted to take my pain and turn it into something meaningful. My professors loved me. I published research on childhood trauma and family dynamics. I graduated summa cum laude. I got accepted into a top-tier graduate program. And through it all, James was there. He flew out for my graduation, sitting in the audience with tears streaming down his face as I walked across that stage. My mother didn't come. She said she couldn't afford the ticket, though I suspected the real reason was shame. After the ceremony, James took me to dinner. "I'm so proud of you," he said, raising his glass. "Look at what you've built. Look at who you've become. I couldn't have done it without you," I said, my own glass trembling in my hand. "Yes, you could have. You're the strongest person I know, Natalie. You survived something that would have broken most people. And you came out the other side more compassionate, more determined, more alive. That's all you. You saved my life that day in Dubai," I said, tears streaming down my face. "You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me what a parent could be." He reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "And you gave me a reason to keep going. After I lost my daughter, I thought I'd never feel that kind of love again. But you brought it back. You let me be a father again. That's a gift I can never repay." We sat there crying together, two people who'd found each other in the worst moment and built something beautiful from it. I didn't talk to my mother much during those college years. We'd exchange texts on birthdays and holidays, brief, polite, distant. She'd ask how school was going, and I'd give vague answers. The truth was, I was building a life so far removed from her that I didn't know how to share it with her anymore. Ethan and I texted occasionally. He'd gone to a state school nearby and was studying business. He seemed to be doing okay, though I could tell he was still struggling with his own demons. We were civil, but we weren't close. Maybe we never would be. And I was okay with that. I'd learned that not every relationship is salvageable. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is let go. I was in my second year of graduate school when I got the call that it was 2 in the morning. I was asleep in my apartment, buried under blankets, when my phone rang. I grabbed it blindly, squinting at the screen. "Aunt Lydia." My heart dropped. "Hello." My voice was rough with sleep. "Natalie." She was crying. "It's your mother. She's in the hospital. She had a stroke. Everything stopped." "What?" "She collapsed this morning. Ethan found her. It's bad, Natalie. You need to come home." I was on a plane 8 hours later. I called James from the airport. "She's dying," I told him, my voice numb. "My mom is dying, and I don't know how to feel about it." "Feel however you need to feel," he said gently. "There's no right way to process this." "I'm angry," I admitted. "I'm angry that she's leaving before we could fix this. Before I could figure out if I even wanted to fix this. I'm angry that she wasted so much time, and now there's no time left." "That's okay. You're allowed to be angry." "But I'm also sad," I whispered. "I'm so sad, James, because she's my mom, and I love her, and I never got to have the relationship I wanted with her, and now I never will." "I know, sweetheart. I know." I cried on the phone with him until boarding started. Then I wiped my face, got on the plane, and flew back to the life I'd worked so hard to leave behind. The hospital was exactly as cold and sterile as I remembered hospitals being. The fluorescent lights were too bright. The smell of antiseptic burned my nose. Everything felt surreal, like I was moving through a dream. Ethan was in the waiting room. He stood when he saw me, And we hugged without speaking. He looked terrible, eyes red, face pale, hands shaking. How is she? I asked. Not good. His voice cracked. They don't think she's going to make it. They said maybe a day or two at most. My knees went weak. I sat down hard in one of the plastic chairs. Can I see her? Yeah, she's been asking for you. We walked to her room together. Aunt Lydia was there, sitting beside the bed, holding my mother's hand. She looked up when we entered, tears streaming down her face. Natalie, she whispered, thank God. I walked slowly to the bed, and my breath caught in my throat. My mother looked so small, so frail. Her hair had gone completely gray, thinning and wispy against the white pillow. Her face was slack on one side from the stroke, her skin papery and pale. She was hooked up to machines that beeped rhythmically, each sound a reminder that her time was running out. She looked old, so much older than I remembered. When had she gotten old? Her eyes fluttered open as I approached. They were cloudy, confused. But when they focused on me, something shifted. Recognition, relief, love. Natalie, she breathed, her voice barely audible. I sat down beside the bed and took her hand. It was cold and thin, the bones fragile beneath papery skin. I'm here, Mom. I'm here. Tears spilled down her cheeks, collecting in the creases of her face. You came. Of course I came. I didn't. I didn't think you would. Her words were slurred from the stroke, hard to understand. But I caught them. After everything, I didn't think. Shh. I said softly, don't try to talk. Just rest. No, she squeezed my hand with surprising strength. Need to. Need to tell you. Tell me what, Mom? I'm sorry. The words came out in a sob. For all of it. For Dubai. For every day before that. For not seeing you. For not loving you the way you deserved. I'm so sorry, Natalie. So sorry. My vision blurred with tears. I know, Mom. I know you are. I love you. Always loved you. Just didn't. Didn't know how to show it. Lost myself when your father. When he. I know. I said again, my voice breaking. It's okay. I understand. Not okay. She insisted. Wasn't okay. You deserved better. Deserved so much better. I couldn't speak. I just held her hand and cried, are you? She paused, struggling for breath. Are you happy? Out there in California? Yeah, Mom, I'm happy. A small smile crossed her face. The first genuine smile I'd seen from her in years. Good. That's good. You deserve to be happy. So do you. I whispered. She shook her head slightly. Too late for me. But you have your whole life. Don't waste it being angry. Don't let what happened make you hard. Stay soft, Natalie. Stay kind. I will. I promised. She closed her eyes, her breathing becoming labored. I'm tired. Then sleep, Mom. I'll be right here. You'll stay? Her eyes opened again, desperate and afraid. You won't leave? The question hit me like a physical blow. After everything, she was still afraid of being abandoned. She was still afraid that I'd do to her what she'd done to me. I'll stay, I said firmly. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. Relief washed over her face. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. And then she closed her eyes and drifted off to sleep. I stayed in that hospital room for 2 days. Ethan brought me coffee and food. Aunt Lydia sat with us, telling stories about my mother when she was young, funny, warm stories that reminded me she'd been a whole person once. Before grief destroyed her, James flew in on the second day. He stood in the doorway for a moment, just looking at me. And then he crossed the room and pulled me into his arms. I'm here, he said simply, and somehow, that made everything a little more bearable. My mother drifted in and out of consciousness. Sometimes she'd wake up and seem lucid, asking about my studies or telling me she was proud of me. Other times she'd wake up confused, calling me by my father's name or asking for people who'd been dead for years. On the second night, she woke up around midnight. I was dozing in the chair beside her bed when I felt her hand tighten around mine. Natalie? I'm here, Mom. I need to tell you something. I leaned closer. What is it? Your father. She paused, gathering strength. He would be so proud of you. You're everything he hoped you'd be. Strong, kind, Brave. You got the best parts of both of us. Fresh tears spilled down my cheeks. Thank you. Don't make my mistakes, she continued, her voice fading. Don't let pain make you cruel. Don't forget how to love. Promise me. I promise, Mom. Good. She smiled weakly. That's my girl. Her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. And at 2:47 in the morning, with my hand in hers and Ethan standing beside me, my mother died. The funeral was small, just family and a handful of my mother's co-workers. We held it at the same church where we'd buried my father 8 years earlier. The irony of that wasn't lost on me either. Ethan and I planned it together. We picked out flowers, white lilies, her favorite. We wrote the obituary together, both of us crying as we tried to summarize a complicated life into a few short paragraphs. We chose the songs and the readings and stood side by side as they lowered her casket into the ground beside our father. At the reception afterward, people told me how sorry they were. They told me she was in a better place. They told me all the things people say when they don't know what else to say, and I smiled and thanked them and felt absolutely numb inside. James stayed by my side the entire time, a steady presence in the chaos. After everyone left, it was just me, Ethan, James, and Aunt Lydia in my mother's house. We sat in the living room, surrounded by her things, her books, her photos, her life, and tried to figure out what came next. I can't stay here, Ethan said suddenly. I can't live in this house anymore. Me neither. I agreed. We'll sell it, Aunt Lydia said practically. Split everything between the two of you. We nodded. It felt wrong somehow, dividing up her life like assets on a spreadsheet. But what else could we do? Later that night, Ethan and I stood in the backyard where we'd played as kids. The swing set was still there, rusted and unused. The grass had grown wild. I'm sorry, Ethan said quietly, for everything. For Dubai especially. I know I said it before, but I need to say it again. What I did was unforgivable. Yeah, I said. It was. Do you think? He hesitated. Do you think we'll ever be okay? You and me? I thought about it for a long time. I don't know. I finally said, I don't hate you anymore, but I don't know if we'll ever be close. Too much has happened. He nodded sadly. I understand. But maybe, I added, maybe we can be civil. Maybe we can check in on each other once in a while. Not as close siblings, but as people who share a history. I'd like that, he said. I'd really like that. We stood there in the growing dark, two broken people trying to find their way forward. I'm 33 years old now, and I'm sitting in my office in downtown Los Angeles, looking out at the city I've made my home. I'm a licensed therapist specializing in family trauma and childhood emotional neglect. My practice is full of waiting list 3 months long of people who need someone to understand what it's like to be invisible in your own family. People who need to know they're not alone. I wrote a book 3 years ago. It's called The Invisible Child, Healing from Parental Favoritism and Family Trauma. It became a New York Times bestseller. I've been on podcasts, done speaking tours, helped thousands of people understand that their pain is valid, that they deserved better, that healing is possible. The book jacket has my picture on it. I'm smiling a real smile, not a fake one. I look happy, confident, whole. Sometimes I still can't believe that's me. My apartment is small but beautiful, hardwood floors, big windows, plants everywhere. I share it with a golden retriever named Hope that James helped me pick out 2 years ago. She's sleeping at my feet right now, her paws twitching as she dreams. I have friends who feel like family. Maya moved to LA after graduation and lives 20 minutes away. We have brunch every Sunday. Carlos is a professor at USC now, and we meet for coffee once a month to talk about research and life. Rebecca runs a nonprofit for at-risk youth, and I volunteer there whenever I can. I dated someone for 4 years, a kind, gentle man named Daniel who made me laugh and never once made me feel small. We broke up 6 months ago, mutually and amicably, because we wanted different things. But he taught me that love doesn't have to hurt, that I'm worthy of being chosen. James is still in my life. He's 72 now, mostly retired, and he spends half the year in Dubai and half in California, specifically, about 2 miles from my apartment. We have dinner every Thursday. He walks hope when I'm with clients. He's the first person I call when something good happens. Last year, I asked him if he'd walk me down the aisle if I ever get married. He cried. It would be the honor of my life, he said. Ethan and I have coffee once a year, on our mother's birthday. We meet at the same cafe, a small place near where she's buried. We talk about surface things. His job in finance, my practice, the weather, sports. Sometimes we talk about her, about the ways she shaped us, the scars she left, the love that somehow still remains despite everything. We're not close. We'll probably never be close. But we're not enemies either. We're two people who shared a terrible childhood and are doing our best to build better lives. That's enough. He got married last year. I went to the wedding. I met his wife, a sweet woman named Claire who seems to actually make him happy. I watched him dance with her at the reception, and I thought, maybe he's healing too. Maybe we both are. On my 30th birthday, I visited my parents' graves for the first time since my mother's funeral. I brought flowers, yellow roses for my father, white lilies for my mother. I sat on the grass between their headstones and talked to them the way I used to talk to James when I needed to process things. I'm okay, I told them. I'm more than okay, actually. I'm happy. I built a life I'm proud of. I help people. I have friends who love me. I wake up most mornings grateful to be alive. I paused, pulling grass between my fingers. I forgive you, Mom. Not because you deserve it necessarily, but because holding on to the anger was eating me alive. You were broken, and you broke me in the process. But I fixed myself. I found people who taught me what love is supposed to look like, and I'm grateful for that. I moved to my father's grave, pressing my palm against the cool marble. I miss you, Dad. I miss who you were. I miss who I might have been if you'd lived. But I think I turned out okay anyway. I think you'd be proud of me. At least, I hope you would be. I sat there until the sun started to set, talking to the dead, making peace with the past. When I stood to leave, I felt lighter. Not completely healed. I don't know if you ever completely heal from this kind of hurt. But lighter, freer, like I'd set down a weight I'd been carrying for 2 decades. Last month, I got a message from a woman named Sarah. She'd read my book and wanted to thank me. She said she'd felt invisible her whole life, that her parents had always favored her younger brother, that she'd thought she was broken until she read my story and realized she wasn't alone. You saved my life, she wrote. You gave me permission to be angry, to grieve what I never had, to stop waiting for them to change. Thank you. I cried reading that message, because that's why I do this work. That's why I wrote the book, why I share my story, why I sit with clients day after day and hold space for their pain, because no one should feel the way I felt at 14. No one should stand in an airport and watch their family walk away. No one should spend years wondering why they're not enough. If my story can help even one person feel less alone, then everything I went through was worth it. People ask me sometimes about revenge. They want to know if I feel satisfied, if I feel vindicated, if I'm glad my mother and brother suffered consequences for what they did. The truth is more complicated than that. Yes, there was satisfaction in watching the security footage play, in seeing my mother's face when she realized Ethan had lied, in making her come back for me instead of abandoning me completely. But that satisfaction was hollow. It didn't heal the wound. It didn't give me back the childhood I lost. The real revenge, the revenge that actually mattered, was surviving. It was thriving despite them. Not because of them. It was building a life so full of love and purpose that their rejection couldn't touch it anymore. It was becoming the kind of person who helps others instead of hurting them. It was proving to myself, not to them, that I was always enough, that I was always worthy, that I was always deserving of love. That's the revenge they don't tell you about in movies. It's quiet. It's slow. It's built over years of hard work and therapy and choosing yourself over and over again. But it's real, and it lasts. My mother never got to see who I became. She died before I published my book, before I built my practice, before I learned how to be truly happy. Part of me is sad about that. Part of me wishes she could have witnessed my success, could have seen me turn our shared trauma into something meaningful. But another part of me knows it doesn't matter. I didn't do this for her. I didn't build this life to prove her wrong or make her regret her choices. I did it for me. For the scared 14-year-old girl standing alone in Dubai. For every child who's ever felt invisible. For the person I deserve to become. And that's enough. This morning, I had a session with a new client. She's 15. Her parents are divorcing, and her mother is so focused on her younger sister who has special needs that this girl has become invisible. She cried in my office, telling me she feels guilty for being angry because her sister needs more attention. I looked at her and saw myself. Your feelings are valid. I told her, you're allowed to need your parents too. You're allowed to feel hurt. Being angry doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. She looked at me with so much relief that I almost cried. After she left, I sat in my office and thought about the journey I've taken. From that airport in Dubai to this moment. From invisible to seen. From broken to healing. It wasn't a straight path. There were setbacks and breakdowns and nights when I wasn't sure I'd make it. There were times I wanted to give up, to let the darkness win, but I didn't. I kept going. I found James, who showed me what a parent could be. I found Maya and Carlos and Rebecca, who showed me what friendship looks like. I found therapists who helped me untangle the knots in my soul. I found my purpose in helping others. And slowly, piece by piece, I built myself into someone I'm proud of. Tonight, I'm having dinner with James. We're going to our favorite restaurant, a small Italian place with red checkered tablecloths and candles on every table. We'll order too much food and talk for hours about everything and nothing. He'll tell me about his latest consulting job, and I'll tell him about my clients in vague terms that protect their privacy. We'll laugh. We'll probably cry a little too, because we're both sentimental like that. And at the end of the night, he'll hug me tight and tell me he loves me and he's proud of me. And I'll believe him, because that's what real family does. They show up, they stay, they choose you over and over again. Not because they have to, but because they want to. My biological family couldn't give me that, but I found it anyway. I built it with people who saw my worth when I couldn't see it myself. That's the real ending to this story. Not revenge in the traditional sense, but something better. Survival, growth, transformation. Becoming more than what they made me. Becoming everything despite them. That's the victory. That's the revenge. And it's sweet. So incredibly sweet. If you're reading this, if you felt invisible, if you've been abandoned, if you've wondered why you're not enough, I need you to know something. You are enough. You've always been enough. The people who couldn't see it were blind. Not because you lacked light, but because they were too broken to recognize it. Your worth isn't determined by who stayed or who left. It's inherent. It's yours. And no one can take it from you. The path forward isn't easy. Healing isn't linear. There will be days when the pain feels fresh, when you wonder if it's worth it, when you want to give up. But keep going. Find your people. Build your family, the one you choose, not the one you were born into. Get therapy. Write your story. Turn your pain into purpose. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're thriving. You're happy. You're free. That's what happened to me. And that's my wish for you too. If my story moved you, please share it. Comment below with your own experiences. You're not alone. Like and subscribe to hear more stories of survival, healing, and triumph. Together, we're building a community of people who refuse to be invisible anymore. Sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most hurt us the worst. But survival isn't just about enduring. It's about rising. It's about proving that you were always enough even when they couldn't see it. My family abandoned me at 14. But I found myself. And in the end, that was the greatest revenge of all.